Birboy tiene un demonio dentro. Un demonio que lo está comiendo, devorando desde su interior. Pero yo sé que tiene buen corazón.
The Spanish Psiconautas. It stars a group of anthropomorphic animal characters with their own individual stories that intersecate with each other in this island that seems to be like a allegorical microcosm for our society, our dying society, because of all the pollution and death and industrial zones explosions, which is how the film begins with. Yes, there is a heavily laid pro-environmentalist message in it, but to be fair, it's actually part of a greater whole. And the greater thematic whole is hope. This film is about hope. The loss of hope and the trying so hard to hold on to it in a world that is systematically dying before your eyes. And thus we have this series of characters with their own conflicts, and we have their metaphorical representations of their own struggles literally appearing before their eyes, as if the allegoric depiction of, say, drug addiction, abuse, the sins of the fathers and the past consuming you in the present, all of that is basically taken at face value by the characters in the film. And it also creates some really, really interesting and absolutely horrific imagery. There are moments in which the animation really shines and creates scenes of absolute horrific beauty in that regard. The animation overall is fantastic and visually unique, aesthetically pleasing in so many ways, while still communicating a sense both of hopelessness and really, really hard-earned hope right at the very end.
Comenzaremos una nueva vida, lejos de aquí. Siempre has sabido volar.
My main criticism with this film was that it was basically the Cliff Note summarized version of a film. It had a lot going on in terms of potential narrative and themes that it wanted to explore, superseded by an overarching leitmotif of the dichotomy between hope and despair, poverty and lack of personal freedom. A lot of heavy and interesting stuff that, in theory, should be coalesced together into a unifying thematic journey, if you will. Again, the dichotomy between hope and despair. The need to overcome all of that aforementioned despair with the atavist necessity to believe in a future and to start building said future from the ground up, which is represented both in a metaphorical and literal sense in the film itself. The film itself is an allegoric narrative that seems to be crossing a line in between face value and metaphorical storytelling. Those are the strongest points of the film. It is imaginative and rich, stylistically rich, horrifying at times, but deservingly so. It earns its horrifying imagery. It doesn't just throw them at you gratuitously. But as I said before, this is all well and good in theory, but the total running time of the film does not allow for this kind of story to breathe and to develop, not to mention that all of the various stories that intertwine the film, with all of these many characters and their own arcs, and their own going-ons, and their own conflicts, they do not have the time to develop or to be even properly introduced at times. The film chooses to focus on way too many subplots that they could not possibly fit in a total running time of a little more of 70 minutes. Here is a perfect example of that. The character of Sandra, which is introduced by way of having demons, voices in her head. They talk to her, they understand, they talk to her. Sorry about that. Like some sort of split personality, or literal little bunny demons. She's a bunny herself. These are all anthropomorphic animals, by the way, as I said last time, that tell her to kill. We only have 2 scenes about her personal conflict, and in both scenes she is able to overcome them. The second scene of the 2 is when she gets rid of them permanently, and it takes approximately 10 seconds to do that. She overcomes it without actually ever properly having to deal with it in a believable way. So basically, because of that, her entire conflict is rendered moot. Basically, it's a waste of time. Here's a better example. There is the romance in between the 2 main characters, Bird Boy and Dinky, which by all intents and purposes it's supposed to be the most important relationship in the film, the one that's primarily linked with the overarching theme of the film, especially if you consider the ending, which is a kind of unless ending. Dr. Seuss teaches us. Unless things go better. That kind of ending. This romance, this supposed romance that they have, we are told they had a thing together. We are reminded that they had a thing together. We see them having a last goodbye scene towards the end. But the only thing, the only scene we actually get to show this romance when it happened, to show the importance of this love story, it's really a 30 seconds long, really quick flashback montage, which less than 30 seconds in fact, which really does not add to the supposed drama. The film also, like I said before, covers a lot of themes, from racism to teenage angst, to drug addiction, to codependence relationships, toxic relationships, that is. They are thrown together in it, much like many of the characters and characters' arcs that there are in shown to us in the film. They do not coalesce well together, and they not gel together to form a cohesive, thematic, satisfying journey, if you will. Psiconautas is a gorgeous film with beautiful imagery, beautiful and horrendous imagery, and a lot of interesting themes, but it does not have the time to develop them. The film could have used a few more minutes in its total length, but other than that, this is a greatly interesting, visually promising feature. So there you go, Psiconautas. It gets my recommendation.